Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Neha Serene, your host for today. And on behalf of Marico Innovation Foundation, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to each and every one of you. Thank you for joining us here this evening. It's truly your presence that makes this occasion so perfect. Welcome to the 7th edition of the Marico Innovation Foundation Awards. It is the biennial recognition platform of the foundation. Over the course of the last 14 years, the Marico Innovation Foundation has been celebrating intelligent innovation, new and unique ideas that understand the needs of the people, meet them in an efficient and scalable manner, and create value for the society at large. Ladies and gentlemen, to kickstart the proceedings, join me in welcoming on stage Dr. R.A. Mashelkar, Honorary Chairman of the Governing Council, Marico Innovation Foundation.
Good evening and welcome to this evening of great celebration. As you said, 14 years of Marico Innovation Foundation. Harsh, it was your dream. You started talking about innovation when it was on the periphery. Today it is at the core. You are ahead of time in terms of thinking about innovation-led growth, innovation-led competitiveness. So I want to begin by acknowledging that. It has been a special privilege and an honor for me to be associated with Marico Innovation Foundation. And things have changed in India. I can sense that. I can sense that from the mood of the young. So let me begin with an anecdote. I interact very closely with young people, by the way, because they are the future. And I was talking to them. The title of my talk was Satyam Shivam Sundaram. Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft. Sundar Pichai, CEO of Google. So I said, there is a vacancy, Satyam Shivam Sundaram, Shiva, maybe Apple. You know, a young fellow got up. He says, sorry, with all due respect, you don't understand us. I said, why, what happened? He said, the only aspiration your generation had was to go to US somehow. The next generation, their aspiration was to get a job in top companies like Microsoft, Google. The next generation, they wanted to become CEOs of Microsoft, Google. Not my generation, our generation. We want to create our own Microsoft, our own Google here in India. So I think there is a responsibility on us to fulfill the aspirations of this new young India. We require dramatic change in our thinking in terms of the way we move forward. Because if we continue to do what we are doing, I don't think we'll reach there. So I have a simple 5-point formula. First, we always talk about leapfrog. From leapfrogging, we must move to pole vaulting. You know, I've studied leapfrogging. Why does the frog leap? The science of it, because he's afraid of a predator. What is the average leap? 4.6 feet. What is the biggest leap? World record, 7 feet. I don't want my India to be scared of something and leaping 7 feet. We have to pole vault. The size of the pole determines the size of your ambition. Some of the awardees today, you will find they have not done leapfrogging, they have done pole vaulting. That's the first. The second is from jugaad to systematic innovation. I don't like my India, our India, to be called a jigadu nation, making it happen somehow with no consideration to safety, aesthetics, and environment, and so on and so forth. From there, how do we move to systematic innovation? And you will find brilliant examples of that systematic innovation today. The third is incremental to disruptive, not 10%, 10 times. How do we do 10 times better, but at 10 times low cost? You will again see examples of this today. The next one, the fourth one, is moving, as C.K. Prahlad, my guru, used to say, not the best practice, the current best practice, but the next practice. How does India actually do that? And the last is from first to India to first to the word. I think this is extremely important. The time has come where we do that. And once again, you will see examples today in the awards that this has happened. I find that I've been left with 5 minutes, so what I will try to do is to pick up the last point, the first to India to first to the world. Are we capable of doing that? Because we always say Indian genes express in Silicon Valley, not in Indus Valley. I'm sorry. They have been expressing, but innovation is a journey from mind to marketplace, and that is where the challenge comes. You know, on the other day, just day before yesterday, I was in Bangalore, in C Camp, and I saw amazing work there, mind-blowing work, taking challenges, taking risks of an incredible kind. One of these, the Bugworks Research Private Limited, there is a big challenge today because the antibiotic pipeline is lacking the new mechanism to fight drug-resistant gram-negative bacteria. It's a real challenge with the word. A lady died where something like 13 antibiotics didn't work on her. So there is a challenge, and they have created a novel first broad-spectrum antibiotic to kill multi-drug-resistant gram-negative bacteria. It's a major breakthrough, basically. But how do you take this to finally a pill? I think is the challenge, the translational research. That way we had a breakthrough on head and neck cancer, all right? A new molecule for a nation which is just copying, but it could not go forward because they had to move the clinical research to US and Canada, and an Indian company cannot do that. So the innovation ecosystem, how do we make it happen? You know, I will read something. This is about Simputer in Bangalore. Bruce Sterling in New York Times wrote, the most significant innovation in computer technology in 2001 was not Apple's gleaming titanium power book 4G, G4, or Microsoft's Windows XP. It was the Simputer, a net-linked, radically simple, portable computer intended to bring the computer revolution to the third world, basically. And many of the technology that came later in iPhone when it was launched, etc., or Simputer's Galaxy were there. But do you see Simputer here? No. Because what was lacking was a public procurement policy for innovation and of innovation. Government being the first buyer. In many countries that happens. I was in China about 8-9 years ago, giving the opening plenary in the Global Inclusive Innovation Summit, and I found the lady who spoke after me, a Chinese lady, said that $1 trillion was spent in supporting such breakthrough innovations. Just divide by 6 and you will get dollars. So we require a policy like that. I've done a paper for Niti Aayog on this. I hope this will move. I think that is the basic issue I want to talk about, the robust innovation ecosystem and building it, and that will mean that we'll have to look at things differently. You know, we don't normally tolerate failure. Don't take risks. Fail has to be interpreted in a completely different way. Fail, F-A-I-L, is first attempt in learning. Talent, technology, and trust is what is going to be the basis for the future. And we must trust our young, invest in them, not just venture capital, which tends to be sometimes vulture capital. It has to be adventure capital. How do we build that as a change of our mindset, I think is going to be the key. Finally, I would just say that there is a movement on Startup India. The government is trying to do a number of things. Maharashtra State, the startup policy, I've been involved in it as a co-chair of the Maharashtra State Innovation Policy. We are trying to make life easy, etc. But at the end of it, I don't want India to just remain as a startup India, finish up India. Our problem is finally having great minds, great ideas, but hitting actually the finishing line. I think today's evening, as a matter of fact, these awards will give you a feeling that very quickly we are moving from a startup nation to a finish-up nation right at the top. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Mashelkar, for setting the tone to this wonderful evening. Our first winner here this evening, what can I say about him? He's taken passion and made it shake hands with purpose. He's taken vision and backed it with venture. His innovation is that lighthouse of hope that's taken many an infant's life from the dark into the light. Please put your hands together and join me in welcoming Mr. K. Chandrasekhar of Forus Health.
I want to share with you the story of Shruti. Shruti was born in Aurangabad on a bright sunny day in April. Their entire family was happy and overjoyed. But their happiness was short-lived. Soon after her birth, Shruti was diagnosed with an eye complication which led to her blindness, permanent and irreversible. For the last 12 years, Shruti has been living in darkness. Shruti is one among the 3.5 million babies who are born premature in India every year. Earlier, these babies used to die because lack of facilities. But with the intervention of the government and the private sector, the babies have started to survive. But then they developed a complication in the eye. This complication is called retinopathy of prematurity, or ROP. If you don't screen and identify and treat ROP within the first 90 days of birth, these babies can go permanently and irreversibly blind. In fact, ROP is now considered the third epidemic in India. The burden due to ROP blindness by 2022 is expected a whopping 2,500 crores. Leave aside the emotional impact it is going to have on the parents and relatives of these babies. But why is there such a problem? One, India has very limited number of ophthalmologists. Second, you require equipment, but these are very expensive. It's about $120,000. They are very bulky, about 30 kilograms, so you can't move it from place to place. And mind you, babies are very, very fragile. That is when we decided to innovate. We innovated the Trinethra Neo. Our inspiration has been Dr. Anand Vinekar, who's a world-renowned ROP specialist, who helped us to create this product at 1/5 of the cost and weighing just 1/5 the weight of the existing product. And more importantly, it is mobile. You can take it anywhere you want. A technician can take it, image, and the specialist in the city can actually see it over the cloud, diagnose, and advise what to take next. Today, this product is actually having a significant impact not only in India, but in Europe, Nepal, Bangladesh, Mexico, and Indonesia. I want to share with you, my colleague was in Mexico a couple of months back. The doctors took our device and started screening the babies, and they found these twins who were almost on the verge of losing their vision. The parents were called, counseled, and treatment was given within the next 3 hours. We could see the retina attaching within the next day, and the vision was restored for these babies. Today, if I connect the dots, I often wonder how my life would have been had I not met Dr. Arvind from Arvind Eye Care in 2005. He had come to Philips, where we were working, to give a lecture. He made a very powerful statement. A blind man is seen as a mouth without hands by his own kith and kin. This really appealed to me big time. I wanted to use my 20 years of semiconductor and electronics experience to see, can I find a solution? Over the next few years, we worked with many stakeholders, and we found that preventable blindness is a huge problem. Quitting my job and embarking on this journey has been one of the heights, not only in my career, but in my entire life. If we don't intervene today, 3.5 lakh babies will go blind every year due to ROP. Let's all come together, spread the awareness, make this world free from ROP blindness. Because every child has a right to vision.
Thank you, Casey, for those very inspiring words. And now moving on to our second award winner here this evening, Ankit Mehta, co-founder and CEO of ideaForge. Forging ahead with a deep-rooted ambition to be an innovator, Ankit and his co-founders created ideaForge, a wonderful playground for him and his colleagues to explore robotics to the fullest. How has ideaForge empowered our defense operations? Let's find out from the man himself. Ladies and gentlemen, Ankit Mehta of ideaForge.
Haven't we all wondered at some point, what if IIT graduates would rather stay back instead of going outside for easy opportunities? What if they would rather help solve our massive problems than do it for someone else? What if they would rather help develop our country than push others even further ahead? The challenge is so acute that even government had to launch the Prime Minister Research Fellowship this month in order to stop the brain drain. The story of ideaForge is about us staying back and helping our country become self-reliant in being able to create cutting-edge unmanned systems. This is Major Manish out on a routine surveillance patrol with his platoon. He is armed by an eye in the sky, the Trinethra drone. Trinethra helps the platoon to scan the area ahead and look for a possible ambush or to scan for militants. Our forces have been able to detect Naxals digging roads to bury landmines, saving dozens of lives from a future attack. ideaForge's drones are capable of flying for more than 60 minutes, the highest capability in less than 3 kgs. They help them dominate an area of more than 5 kilometers in radius. A Jawan carries the platform on his backpack and can deploy it in any terrain he may encounter. With little training, he is able to operate the system with full confidence because he knows the platform takes care of itself in the air. His key task is to focus on what he can and wants to see. Such missions happen every day today. It all started in the year 2000 when I joined IIT Bombay with the dreams of being able to implement my own ideas. But in the initial years, I hardly found people interested or excited about hands-on work. It was not until I met my teammates that I found my oasis. We developed as much technology as we could together in that time that we had in IIT. One of us even came up with the idea of creating a hovercraft to float it on the Powai Lake right next to our campus. From the first prototype that we built in the year 2004 to the one that you may have seen in the movie Three Idiots, we've sparked the country's imagination in this space. In 2009, we built the world's smallest and lightest autopilot and delivered it to our DRDO labs for their UAV programs. We also launched country's first fully autonomous micro UAV. Since then, we've delivered hundreds of these platforms to our armed forces, competing against global vendors and yet bagging majority of the opportunity in this space in the country. We're really excited about the times ahead as the government plans to buy more than $3 billion worth of UAVs over a period of next 10 years in various categories. But our systems are not just used for defense applications. In the Uttarakhand disaster, they flew over dozens of sites where rescuers had not been able to reach. When a tigress became man-eater in UP, the government spent crores of rupees in the search of the tigress. But eventually, when they pressed our drones in service, we were able to locate the tigress in one night. Today, Our platforms are used also for industrial and agricultural applications. But when I look back, I believe that being a part of the IIT ecosystem was our great privilege, and building ideaForge is our means and our way of giving back. But I must submit that it has not been an easy journey. And having survived it thus far, I would just like to ask of you, what if we can create an environment where people would rather stay in the country than go outside in search for an easier path to success?
Our third award winner here this evening is Harit Soni of Ecolibrium Energy. What if somebody told you that your assembly line is going to run out of steam because of a motor failure 10 days from now? What would you do? Anyone? You would say thank you and you would act today so that you could avoid the losses of tomorrow, wouldn't you? Exactly. And an innovation that enables you to do that comes from Harit Soni of Ecolibrium Energy.
Hi, welcome to Smart Sense. Your energy consumption yesterday, Thursday 22nd of February 2018, was 30,000 units, and the cost of power was 210,000 rupees. Would you like to know more about ways to optimize this? You can choose opportunities from Enterprise or Asset Insights.
Can you open Asset Insights, please?
Would you like to know about opportunities in transformers, chillers or motors?
Open Motor Insights.
As of today, Friday 23rd of February 2018, you have two open events on your Motor Insight. The cooling tower fan motor 2 has a high probability of mechanical failure, which has resulted 5% excessive consumption. The blower motor number 4 has been overloaded since the last 7 days, thus increasing probability of damage. I would recommend immediate action on these points. Please log into the Smart Sense portal or mobile app to know more.
Thanks, Smart Sense.
You are welcome. Have a great day creating a world where every watt counts.
Good evening, everyone. What you just saw is our product Smart Sense in action at one of the largest industrial facilities in Ahmedabad. While I was chatting with Alexa, millions of data points from hundreds of machines were wirelessly sent to the Smart Sense cloud. The data, once residing on the cloud, were used by AI algorithms to convert into actionable recommendations to improve the productivity. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Internet of Things, as we popularly know also as IoT. This is the future, and at Ecolibrium, we're trying to create it today. How many times have we faced massive production losses because that small but critical motor failed? How many times have we had to climb 3 or 4 flights of stairs because that lift stopped working? Now, what if I tell you that we can predict 15 days in advance before that motor or the lift stopped working? Our friends in Fiat's automobile plant in Pune were facing similar issues. They had stacks of Excel sheet data lying with them, but they weren't able to convert that data into actionable insights to reduce their equipment downtime. That's when we implemented Smart Sense in their factory. And we used our A3 approach, which is acquire, analyze, and act. By following this approach, we created a digital twin of the critical equipment, which would identify anomalies in their certain critical equipment to bring out specific insights to reduce the downtime. Timely action helped them save nearly 5% of energy costs and crores in maintenance and production improvement. Smart Sense has the potential to reduce unplanned downtime by 70%, maintenance cost by 30%, and energy cost by nearly 10%. If Smart Sense is deployed all across India on a large scale, we have the potential to save nearly 26 million units of power by 2023. This means 3 lakh motors and cars taken off the roads from India. Well, I get asked one question quite often. How did you start a technology company when you belong to a family of jewelers. Well, the idea of Ecolibrium was born around 8 years back, but the real seed was sown nearly 25 years ago in my grandfather's jewelry shop in Kutch. Dinner table conversations always revolved around profit and losses. Well, in this kind of an environment, the question of starting a business was never why. It was a question of when. The fact that I had a father who was kind of somebody who went against the norm and challenged the normal way of living, he also was the first engineer in 3 generations of jewelers. Brought up in this environment, we as kids were always trying to reimagine tomorrow. We were trying to reimagine tomorrow, which was challenging the norm. That's when me and my brother started Ecolibrium Energy. We wanted to reimagine a tomorrow which was not only good for the environment and the society at large, but also making profits. Because, as Mr. Mariwala would also agree, that's what any good Gujarati boy should be doing. My first customer was a person called Mr. Samir Shah, a chemical plant owner in Ahmedabad. He put faith in us, gave us our first project without even seeing a functional prototype. Since then, we've grown to work with nearly 300 large enterprises across India, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East. This also includes our very own Dadar station. We have 200 million data points coming onto our servers every day. That makes us one of the largest IoT platforms in this region. The 4th industrial revolution is here. And it is going to revolve around data and analytics to make machines smarter. In this changing world, we are trying to make technology which is made in India, but ready for the world. Looking into the future is a very exciting thing. And we are trying to give you the power to predict tomorrow's problems and solve them today. This is how we have reimagined tomorrow. And I invite all of you to join us in this exciting journey.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, while we do have 3 more winners in this category, let's take a few moments and put the spotlight on our fireside chat. This year, our fireside chat salutes the young achievers, the young innovators of India. Their innovations of 3 teenagers demand that we stand up and take notice. On the one hand, we have 2 innovators from Space Kids India. Yagna Sai, he's 20 years old, and we've got Tanishq, who's 21 years old. And do you know how they spent their teenage years? They were part of a team that built the world's smallest satellite, KalamSat. Put your hands together in welcoming Yagna Sai and Tanishq. Let's have you on stage, please. On the other hand, we have Harshvardhan Zala, the founder of Aerobotics 7. At the age of 15, ladies and gentlemen, here he is. This young man was busy building drones. He was busy building drones that detect and defuse landmines, saving the lives of our soldiers. Ladies and gentlemen, Harshvardhan Zala. And to mediate the fireside chat, can I present our moderator, Ramji Raghavan, the founder of Agastya International Foundation.
Hi. So the book, The Innovator's DNA, talks about great disruptors in the world, technology disruptors, and says they have 5 extremely important traits: questioning, observing, experimenting, associating, and networking. The young men we have on stage today represent these traits in spades and perhaps more. In fact, they bring to mind Da Vinci's famous statement about people of accomplishment. He said that people of accomplishment don't wait for things to happen to them. They go out and happen to things. These are guys who've actually happened to things. Terribly inspiring. So let's start with Space Kids and with a video which gives a brief introduction about Space Kids.
I want to become an astronaut when I grow up.
When I grew up, I become a scientist.
After I grow, I want to become a NASA scientist.
We as young generations are pressurized by our parents to join these careers such as medicine, engineering and then MBA. What I feel personally is there is a life more than that. There's an entire space to explore. And I personally had a big dream to make a satellite when I grow up.
Aerospace is one such thing that you cannot read through the textbooks. Of course, though the equations and all come from the books, it needs a lot of practical experience, like making of rockets and satellites need absolutely doing with your hands.
We keep on making and breaking things all the time. From something as simple as makeshift rockets running on sugar to balloon satellites. Finally, cube satellites for a suborbital launch.
After one of our successful projects, we asked ma'am to make us gulab jamun as a treat because we are all very excited that we had finally finished this. So while eating them, Rifat came up with an idea to make a satellite which is in the size of a gulab jamun. So it will be much lighter and much smaller.
The size and the weight makes a real impact on launching a satellite. And that's how we made the lightest and the smallest satellite, KalamSat.
After 2 years of research, we built our KalamSat, which is just 64 grams, and first time fully 3D printer with 10 sensors, which was launched into space by the US Space Agency, NASA.
There were so many payloads in the mission, and ours was the only satellite, the only one from India. And it was selected from about 86,000 entries from all over the world.
Despite all odds, KalamSat was a super success, and the entire world took a notice of us.
Fabulous story, guys. So before we come to the gulab jamun, right? How did you get interested in aerospace?
I really didn't know. It just happened for me.
Just happened, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Honest answer. How about you, Tanish?
I went into a boarding school, and since standard 8, I had this idea of becoming an aerospace engineer, and my seniors also recommended me to proceed. So that's how I got into this.
Okay. So from what I hear, July 2015 was a very special month for you guys. What happened then?
One fine college day, it's just a usual day at college where we have been going around. We saw this bulletin on notice board that an educational trip to NASA, which is organized by Space Kids India, where we were really excited that if there is a possibility of opportunity of going to NASA. So we registered and we got through, we connected to Dr. Srimati Kesan ma'am through college, and we finally made it to NASA, and that was really a turning point for us.
So what happened there that was so important?
It was amazing that after registering, we have been to NASA, which is absolutely amazing because here we have this theoretical knowledge which we never get to experience in practical. So when we have been to NASA, we have had this hands-on experience of rocket science, and we got to know what really aerospace is.
So you came back and?
Yeah, when we came back to India, we had an opportunity as a team. There was a project known as the helium balloon launch, which was the near space launch vehicle. We were very excited about it since being our first project as a team, but we were constantly demotivated by our seniors, our staffs, and ma'am was constantly mocked with a comment that, why are you working with a bunch of monkeys? Yes, that's the honest comment that we got.
Holy cow.
So despite all odds, we kept all this negativity aside and we went to sweep the Linker Book of Records for the helium balloon launch, the first ever Indians to do so.
So you hit the Limca Book of Records. Yeah. Then you were going to hit other records. So tell us about the rest of the journey.
That was our first success, where we were the first ever Indian students to launch an helium balloon with the record of reaching about 107,000 feet. So tasting that little bit of success, we didn't want to stop there. We further took a step ahead that we wanted to make satellites which would be like suborbital launches, where
These are the 10-centimeter ones.
Yeah, where we enter into the real space and experience it. So that was another milestone.
And what happened to that? You shipped it?
Yes.
Yeah, and then one fine evening when we shipped a cube satellite, like he has mentioned, we were very happy and excited. So we forced ma'am to make gulab jamuns for us. That's our favorite dish. So after constant forcing, because everyone was tired and it was very late, So she's like, okay, fine, I'll make it for you guys. She made, and then while eating, when we all sat down to eat, Rifat randomly came up with a thought that, what if satellites were of this size? And Kasif, who's the lead engineer, he's very sleepy, and he's like, yeah, those are into femto categories. So the talk went on silent for a month or two until a competition known as Cubes in Spaces, organized by iDoodle Learning in popped up, wherein we had to send experiments in a 4 centimeter cube. We were given a weight limit of 64 grams. So your experiment had to be within that, and it had to be in a 4 centimeter cube, it had to fit. So then the idea of this thing revoked. We are like, we thought about this, so why don't we execute it? So that went on to the making. And that day, the KalamSat project begins.
That's when it was approved as a project, and then what did you do?
So
you had to...
Kasif documented this proposal as in, it got approved in a very funny way, I can tell you. The CEO of iDoodle Learning commented that, I literally fell off my chair. Is this really possible? So we in return replied, yes, it is possible, and we'll do it for you. So that's when we started our research. Now the thing was, we had to start from very basic. It wasn't available in the market, this experiment, this research, nobody had done it before, so we had to start from the very scratch. So like first 3-4 months went on to figuring out how to make a material that could really survive in space. We could not use metals as in we were given the weight, so we had to do it within that. So Vinay put in a lot of efforts, he's a structural engineer. We came up with different materials that had to pass through test. Test being in a satellite is being tested in heat, freeze, and then gravitational forces.
You had access to some good labs and so on? Or?
Frankly speaking, we did not have any labs at that time. We made use of the available resources. For example, the dining hall, the kitchen, and whatever we could.
You're kidding.
I'm
kitchen,
not
huh? Back to the gulab jamun.
I'll give you some example. I'm not kidding. So basically, the 3 tests, like I've mentioned, we put those structures when we were experimenting, researching. We put, for example, the boiling. We put the structure that we made into a bowl of boiling water to check if it's withstanding even 100 degrees Celsius. For the freezing test, we put it into a deep freezer. And then for the gravitational test, we just taped it to a fan and rotated it to its maximum speed. So this is how we did the engineering right.
I don't know if this is creativity or jugaad. Dr. Mashelkar can draw the fine line of distinction, but fantastic, fantastic. Okay. So the kitchen cabinet worked, and what happened next?
And then we finally landed up with this material known as reinforced carbon fiber polymer. That is what the KalamSat structure is made of. The next we were planning to, we had our own motherboards to be made. We had to program that so that the sensors responded well at every altitude at any given amount of time. So another 2-3 months went off researching about the experiments, the equipments that we had to put into KalamSat. So like after 8 to 9 months of solid work, we literally shipped that product off to US.
Fabulous. And it was launched when?
It was launched on 22nd June of 2017.
And how long did it spend in space?
It was a 240-minute mission. KalamSat spent 240 minutes in space.
And where did it go after that?
After that, it got retrieved.
It's basically a suborbital launch.
It was a suborbital launch. It was retrieved the very day.
Yeah? You have it?
Yeah, I actually have it.
The actual one? We'll show it to the...
So this is KalamSat. This is the original one that went onto a rocket.
The gulab jamun turned into satellite.
Doesn't look like a gulab jamun, but who cares? Right? Fantastic. So tell me, guys, amazing story. Amazing. You know, you talk about association and so on. Classic. It should be featured in a book. Going through all this, which you did at a very young age, what is the, I don't want to oversimplify it, but what's the one lesson that you learned that you think you should share with us?
It's a difficult question, though I would say that it would be teamwork, because that's the only thing which we had this longest journey where we could come all through this. That's how, yeah.
So talking about
quote it like one for all for one. That's what.
Yeah, like the Musketeers. Good. Yes. So talking about teamwork, there was a biologist in your team, right?
Yes.
What was that about?
Okay. So KalamSat just did not carry electronical instruments to measure the radiations and everything, but it carried 2 types of seeds. Those were the basil and the sunflower seed. Now you may be like, why seeds?
Yeah.
So recently, all the space agencies on a space race, again, we can tell it, because everybody is looking to how should we colonize Mars? How do we get to the moon? How do we leave Earth? So in order to colonize a planet, you do need agriculture over there for us to survive, the humans. So Gobi, the biologist of our team, he's researching upon how to do agriculture without water. So basically a waterless agriculture. So that's how.
Super. And was the weight of the seeds counted in the weight of the satellite?
Yes, we made it within that.
So what was the?
It was, the guideline said 64 grams, but we did it in 63.54 to be precise. And the 4 centimeter cube was minimized by 3.8 centimeter. So we did it.
Terrific. So tell me, Tanishq, what is your one learning?
Like from my personal experiences, what the team came across, I would tell that if you have to do something in life, you just go for it. There'll be people who will be standing for you, who will be mocking at you. The people who want to stand with you will be there, and the people who want to mock will always mock. So let's leave the odd aside and go with the positive attitude. Like, okay, that's my goal and I have to reach it. So that's it. That's how we did it.
Super inspiring Space Kids, gentlemen. And let's not forget your mentor, Dr. Kesan. She deserves credit as well for what happened.
She's the backbone of everything.
The backbone.
Yes.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, let's now move on to another equally fascinating story of a young boy. They call him a genius. You know, I don't think I've ever met a genius. Maybe Jiddu Krishnamurthy once. But after him, we have young Harshvardhan Zala. So before we get to his story, let's watch a lovely video.
Currently accepted landmine detection technology has an accuracy of 51%. My invention is a drone which has an accuracy of 93%. It is a unique device which detects and destroys not only metal but plastic landmines as well.
આને તો નાનપણથી જ બસ આ ઇલેક્ટ્રોનિક રમકડા સાથે જ ખેલતો રહ્યો છે. પહેલું એને જે પ્રોજેક્ટ બનાવ્યો, ટીવી, પછી ફેન, ટ્યુબલાઇટ, બધું જે ટીવી રિમોટથી કંટ્રોલ કરી શકે એવું. પછી એમ કરતાં પાછા બીજા ત્રીજા દિવસે એને પોતાનું FM બનાવ્યું, રેડિયો. એટલે મને તો આમ એવું ફીલ થાય છે ને કે મારા કુટુંબમાં કોઈ જ એન્જિનિયર નથી, તો આ તો અમને એવું જ ફીલ થાય છે કે ગોડ ગિફ્ટ છે.
When I started working on landmine detecting device, I had a vision but no resources. Luckily, my parents gave me a loan to complete this project. I had to start from scratch. Engineering, programming, robotics and so on. So I would spend up to 12 hours a day in cyber cafe learning from the internet.
हर्षवर्धन के सारे टीचर्स उससे नाराज़ रहते थे क्योंकि वो होमवर्क नहीं करता था और क्लास में अटेंड भी पूरा नहीं था। लेकिन जब एग्ज़ाम आती तो एग्ज़ाम के कुछ दिन पहले वो पूरा सिलेबस पढ़ के वो एग्ज़ाम में पास हो जाता था। तब हमें रियलाइज़ हुआ कि वो तो जीनियस ही है।
I took lessons from him for my engineering exams, and thanks to his out-of-the-box approach that I passed.
મેં હર્ષવર્ધનનું સજેશન ઘણા મારા કોલેજના ફ્રેન્ડોને આપ્યું હતું અને એ લોકો એમની પાસેથી ટ્યુશન ક્લાસીસ પણ લે છે. જસ્ટ ઇમેજિન 8મા ધોરણનો છોકરો એ એમટેકના સ્ટુડન્ટોને ભણાવે છે.
These tuition classes helped me to repay the loan and I managed to complete 3 prototypes of my invention. Currently, I'm working with the Indian government, the army and CRPF to clear the landmines in India. After that, I will make this technology available to the rest of the world. My goal is to create technological solutions to save thousands of lives across the world, and this is just the beginning.
Harsh, what can I say? I wish when I was young you had been my tutor. I may have done better in my exams. But anyway, so what is this? They're calling you a genius and you gifted, or is it hard work, or what is it?
So both, actually, in my opinion, there is a 30% God gift and 70% is our own hard work.
70% hard work.
Right.
Words of wisdom from a young man. So how did you get interested in making things and doing things?
So when I was too young, when I was 10 years old, I was really interested in technology and electronics, and always want to tinker with any little electronics items that I could found, and breaking about things and making the simple thing, the ordinary things, into extraordinary thing, and make it more useful. So I completed many projects, and by the time I was 12, I completed 42 daily life useful projects and 8 robots.
42 projects, 8 robots? You dropped out of school to do all this?
No, actually, I used to manage my school and my work in daily routine. So I was my daily schedule was 7 a.m. to 12 a.m. So where
What?
I manage both the things.
That's what? How many hours?
17
hours. What, you were eating something special or what?
No, actually, my mom grabbles me that I'm not eating much.
You're not eating much?
Yeah.
Well, she's probably right, but there's some magic in you. So tell us what happened next.
So in the same month, they turned in July 2015. I seen.
What a coincidence!
Yeah.
Huh? You didn't make it up, no? Okay.
So in July 2015, I seen a video on YouTube. Many soldiers are detecting landmines. So there was a demonstrating video. So they are detecting the landmines, and suddenly one landmine exploded. So from that, I started researching on this landmine issue. So I found that there is a big problem around the world, and many Indian soldiers and civilians dies because of this landmine threat. So then I took a challenge to develop something which can not only detect landmines, metal landmines, but all kinds of landmines, and not only detect it, but it can destroy in the real time without any human risk.
Very impressive, but where did you get all this knowledge to do this?
So I used to spend my 12 hours a day in cyber cafe, learning from the internet. So I used to go to cyber cafe with my grandfather and learn everything from the internet, and write it all the things in a book, and refer it, and make something new from the basics.
Wow. Now, you formalized all this into a company, right?
Right. So
being a Gujarati, I guess you have that skill. So tell us about the company.
So I found a company a year ago called Aerobotics 7.
And who's the chairman?
So actually, I'm the founder and CEO of this company.
Okay. So the chairman's post is vacant for any angel investor. Okay.
Yeah. So actually, directors are my mom and dad.
And who are the employees?
So my friends, college students are working with me as volunteer based. So they are helping me
So
out.
they're all much older than you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you won an award for that.
Yeah, so I'm getting an award for the youngest scientist India, led by Mukesh Ambani sir and Elon Musk sir.
Holy cow. Fabulous. So what's so special about your drone that no other drone in the world has for landmines?
Yeah, so actually this technology isn't available anywhere in the world. From 60 years, many researchers are trying to develop this kind of technology which can detect all kind of landmines. So from 2 years of hard work and God gift, I completed 5 to 6 iterations of this drone, and I managed to complete a technology which can detect all kind of landmines and destroy it remotely. So military can sit to their ground station and can control all the things. And right now we filed 5 to 6 patents for this project, and we hope that we could go on for the international one.
Wow. You're working with the South Koreans.
Actually, my dream is to provide this technology to India first. So I'm working with Indian Army and CRPF, but South Korean Army, they are also human like us. So why we do not save their lives as well?
What about the North Koreans?
Yeah.
I don't want to put you on the spot, okay? We may both get into trouble. Okay. So, I don't know what to say, Harsh. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. You remind me of, I read that biography of Dr. Mashelkar, can correct me, of Richard Feynman, from a young age doing all these experiments and observing ants and all the rest of it. You seem to be the tech version of him. But anyway, what do young people, your colleagues in school, boys, girls, do you have a girlfriend?
No.
Okay. Sorry, mother. But boys and girls, when they look at you, C.N.R. Rao told me the other day, Bharat Ratna C.N.R. Rao, that when he was 11 years old, C.V. Raman walked into the classroom and spoke about Madame Curie. And Professor Rao said, I didn't particularly understand what he was saying, but it suddenly struck me that I want to be like him. So when kids look at you, or even older people look at you, what do they have to do to be like you?
So actually, always used to be different, and you should never give up on anything you're working on. So in the past, when I started this project, I failed many times, and I think this is not going to work, but I never gave up. So I finally completed this project. And second thing, many people told me that this is a really impossible task. Many big companies, big tech companies CEO told me that this is impossible to do, and this is not possible to complete the entire thing. But I did it. So take the impossible task first. It is impossible for the world, not for me, not for you who wants to build something. Thank you.
Amazing. Huh? Amazing. Now, I think we've got about a minute and a half. So before I kind of conclude, is there anything else that you guys would like to say in the next 20, 30 seconds?
One thing. Space Kids India is a small organization, even though our aspirations are above sky. So kindly, if anyone could support the philanthropists here who could support us through the small fundings, we can take our research further. And I can tell you, I promise you, we can get the best products and services for the country in future.
Why we say so is because space is really expensive, ladies and gentlemen. It's really expensive. Even though making the world's lightest, smallest, the cheapest satellite, it's really expensive.
KalamSat, we could make it economical, but in future we would need the support. So
I'm sure if Dr. Kalam had been alive, he would have been thrilled. He would have been thrilled.
Actually, for our first project, we have invited him, but unfortunately, before a month ago, he has passed away. And so that to pay him a proper tribute, we named it KalamSat.
Wonderful. Harsh, anything you would like to add? No? Well, fabulous. Thank you so much for inspiring me, for inspiring the audience, I'm sure. All I want to say is,
thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All I want to say is, besides the technical smarts, the obvious great intelligence and hard work and so on, I think you've all shown a vision for a larger purpose, which is very rare. It's very rare to have that kind of view, and you've shown that. And secondly, to your point about South Koreans and so on, or anyone for that matter, I think you've brought in the sense of humanity into your work. So besides all these discovery skills of observation, questioning, and association, and all the rest of it, experimenting, I think the sense of a larger purpose, the importance of doing something of value to humanity, I'm humbled, and thank you very much again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let's move on to award our fourth award winner here this evening, Vikram Goel, co-founder of Incredible Devices. Vikram and his co-founder, Rajvinder, set out to solve a problem in the space of healthcare. So passionate he was about making a difference that he eventually ended up quitting his job and dedicated himself wholeheartedly to create a business around his innovation and bring it to the masses. To talk to you more about this innovation, please put your hands together for Vikram Goel of Incredible Devices.
A problem is not a problem until it hurts you personally. Rajvinder Kaur, my colleague at Fortis Hospital and co-founder of Incredible Devices, was enjoying her holidays at Rajasthan, where her husband experienced a cardiac arrest. Due to lack of hospitals with required infrastructure, he didn't receive treatment on time, and unfortunately, we lost him. A wife lost her husband, and two kids lost her father, and all this happened because only due to inaccessible healthcare. After this deep personal shock, we were left only with one question: how we can save others from sharing this unfortunate fate. During our research, we were shocked to know that according to World Health Organization, cardiovascular diseases are the #1 cause of death globally. It takes more lives than the total life lost in terrorist attacks, natural calamities, and road accidents. India has the highest number of cardiovascular patients, that is 32 million patients, which is more than the total population of New Zealand and Australia combined together. What is worse, 8 out of 10 patients are dying either due to inaccessible healthcare or unaffordable healthcare. So the million-dollar question is, why the treatment is so expensive? As there are multiple cost factors involved in the treatment of a cardiovascular diseases, one of the biggest cost factor is catheters. So this is a catheter. So these are used during angiography and angioplasty, and each such catheter costs around 2,500 and goes up to 90,000. Most importantly, catheters contribute around 10 to 55% of the overall treatment cost. Seeking this, international healthcare agencies issued guidelines to reuse catheters to make treatment cost effective. According to Government of India, there is no ban on reuse of catheters to make treatment cost effective. Like rest of the world, in India, catheters are used using manual method, which has several drawbacks. Despite the best efforts, there is no patient safety guaranteed because of the human errors, and the entire method is very expensive because of labor cost and high chemical costs. So we asked ourselves how we can resolve this. So this led to the invention of the world's only fully automated catheter cleaning machine, and we call it as catheter reprocessing system and CRS. CRS is a computer-aided catheter cleaning machine with inbuilt self-test and calibration that ensures 100% cleaning of catheters every time. CRS inbuilt computer stringently monitors every cleaning process and effectively cleans catheter using 100% accuracy and precision. This makes it 100% patient safe and good to reuse. And here is our biggest win. With the help of CRS, we have reduced the price of the catheter by 99%. A catheter which earlier cost you around 7,500, after reprocessing now cost rupees 20 only. Since the installation and the launch of this product, we have touched the life of 1 lakh patients. And every hospital which is using our product, despite sharing the cost benefit with the patients, is also making a saving of rupees 1.2 million per annum as compared to the conventional method. We started our journey with the cardiac patients, and the latest version of CRS has the capability to reprocess catheters for liver, kidney, and vascular patients as well. Very recently, we received a call from government hospital asking our support for one of their patients, Manoj, who is a rickshaw puller, and he is in an urgent need for treatment for his liver, and catheter is required. The catheter costs around 32,000, and in no way he can afford that. So we took a used catheter from the same hospital, reprocessed it using CRS, and after a successful treatment, Manoj is back to his happy life, fit and fine. With 1 lakh such happy stories, we already just begun. From 18,000 hospitals in India, we are planning to install CRS at 80 hospitals to benefit 3.6 million patients by 2020 and saving 800 crores for the patients. With such a good product and sound business model, we are planning to install CRS pan-India and throughout the world to make healthcare safe, affordable, and accessible for all, irrespective of their social status, economic class, and geographical reach.
And now moving on to our fifth winner here this evening, Arvind Lakshmi Kumar, founder and CEO of Tonbo Imaging. Arvind wanted to build cutting-edge products from scratch and scale them. He wanted technology to empower autonomy. To share with you how he mapped the way, join me in welcoming on stage Arvind Lakshmi Kumar of Tonbo Imaging.
On May 7th, 2016, Joshua Brown became the first casualty in an autonomous car accident. The cameras on his Tesla did not see a white trailer truck. So he was driving at about 70 miles an hour on a sunny Florida day. A white trailer truck was coming in the opposite direction. And against the glint of the sunlight, the cameras could not see very clearly. And with that accident, about 2 years back, autonomous cars and their problems went from science fiction to dinner table conversations. Now, not just autonomous cars, there are a whole range of applications which are moving towards autonomy. You have smart cities, you have automated inspection systems, you have smart homes, and you also have smart surveillance and smart borders and smart soldiers. And the underlying theme about autonomy is all about how do you provide better safety and how do you empower more convenience, right? And the focus of my talk today is what's the underlying technology which empowers autonomy? What really makes it tick? And it's about cameras and imaging systems, and incidentally, that's what we at Tonbo Imaging make. When you look at a camera today, camera was not built for autonomy. A camera was built for taking pretty pictures. It's evolved over the years, but its primary purpose was to take good pictures. And if you look 200 years back from the first camera, the Giro daguerreotype in 1800s, to your cell phone camera, the camera has evolved in form and fit, but it's not changed in its underlying concept. So it looks much like the Cyclops. This is a mythical creature which had one eye, and a camera's design is exactly like the Cyclops, right? Now, but when you look at nature, as humans, we have two eyes. So two eyes give you a sense of depth and allows you to see the world in 3D. But what's more interesting is insects like dragonflies, they have 40,000 eyes. Now, what this crazy compound eye structure does is it allows you to create very efficient imaging systems in a very small form factor. So we took inspiration from the dragonfly and decided to build cameras and imaging systems which had multiple eyes or multiple apertures, right? And as a tribute to this marvelous insect, we decided to call the company Tonbo, which incidentally means dragonfly in Japanese. Now, autonomy, and which is the basis of the talk, requires something beyond sensing, right? Sensing is one aspect of autonomy. You need to be able to see the environment, you need to be able to understand what's happening around you, and you need to be able to communicate very efficiently. So what we did is we built a camera based on this technology and said, let's build a camera which can see really well. We gave it a brain so it could interpret the environment, so it could automatically understand what's happening around the environment, and it could communicate very efficiently with other cameras, so this information is transmitted between cameras to create an ad hoc network. And this became our platform to empower autonomy. Now you have a ton of applications which can use autonomy, right? And as I mentioned, you have defense, you have industrial automation, you have autonomous vehicles. Defense is very interesting because defense has pretty much the same analogy like a camera. Cameras didn't change for 200 years, and defense has not changed for 100 years, right? So the underlying principle about how people built defense companies has been the same. Asset-heavy companies, a lot of capital invested, a lot of infrastructure invested. So we said, well, can we be for the defense industry what Apple is for the consumer electronics industry? Own the intellectual property, own the brand, own the design, and outsource everything else, contract manufacture everything else, right? And that became the way we started building products. So here's a video to give you a sense in terms of the products we built and how they are deployed. What's common to us and ISKCON, and it's an interesting analogy, is when Swami Prabhupada wanted to start ISKCON, he went to his guru and told him, I want to start ISKCON and, impart this knowledge. So Swami Prabhupada's guru told him, why don't you go to the US, educate all of them. Once they accept it, India will accept it, right? And our defense business was pretty much the same. So we are deployed worldwide. We are deployed in about 25 countries. But there were 6 countries where this was deployed first before it came to India. So all the way from Southeast Asia and Philippines to our latest Peru, where we won a $100 million program to modernize the Peruvian army. And India figured 7th on that list after we had deployed internationally. And, it's kind of, so part of our objective was to build, a defense industry, not build a product or a feature. And we wanted to build a platform which allows other people to build systems over and above it. And we've been very fortunate to have very patient investors. And one of the reasons why we could do this was because we had excellent and very patient investors. From Mumbai Angels, my friends in 2010 who supported me, to Arteman Capital in 2012, and to Walden, Qualcomm, Edelweiss, and a bunch of Goldman Sachs partners. And that's the reason we've been able to deploy this capital efficiently and build defense systems for around the world.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, moving on to the 6th and last winner in this category of awards, Deepak Garg, founder and CEO of RaviGo. Deepak and his other founding members at RaviGo set up a rather innovative business model to uplift the lives of the often neglected truck driver community. RaviGo hits the sweet spot of making logistics human, one truck driver at a time. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Deepak Garg, founder and CEO, RaviGo.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here today to hear our story. Our story is that of innovation, but much more a story of celebrating human life. A human life that has been rendered inhuman by years of economic and social ecosystems disabuse. It is a story of human life which actually moves our economic tick. It's a story of human life which many of you would know of, but never would have thought about for more than an hour in their entire lives. This is a story of the life of an Indian truck driver. So let me take you back to the year 2014, when I was still at McKinsey, did not know anything about the trucking economy or the trucking sector at all. I was already 32, wanting to do something. The urge was there and looking for an idea to actually pursue. An idea with social impact, idea with purpose, idea which would actually make real economic impact and would be truly India's innovation for the world. And I was not inspired to actually think of ideas which had happened globally and then replicate those back in India. And therefore, I started studying the logistics ecosystem, thought that if India has to grow, if India has to be that economic superpower, then logistics and supply chain ecosystem has to be built. To my amazement, when I actually went down to the sector, started studying the sector, I realized the problem was not actually in the way trucks operated, in the way customers ordered. The problem was actually deep-rooted in the life of the truck driver. Not many of you would know that an Indian truck driver actually is in severe and chronic paucity. No one wants to be a truck driver. I remember back in 2014 summers, I met a truck driver. I hopped onto his truck cabin. He was a Sardarji from Punjab. The only public memory he had of Indira Gandhi as the Prime Minister and Operation Blue Star. He had lived his life in a trailer of a truck. He had met his son only 5 times in his entire life. That was his life. That changed my worldview, that this is too inhuman. This cannot be life of millions of people, and this is not how the backbone of the economy can exist. During that time, I also got an opportunity to actually travel with an NGO to distribute pillow covers to a place in Jaipur. I was so inspired meeting truck drivers on the road that I actually ended up driving all the way down from Delhi to Vapi. I had told my family that I'll be back the same evening. I landed back home a week later, and I had met hundreds of truck drivers along the way and listened to their stories. In Jaipur, I remember meeting a truck driver at a driver Seva Kendra. he first time told me that actually drivers are treated as not the mainstream caste, but as a 37th caste. The manager of the driver Seva Kendra said, Sahab, ye to 37वीं कौम hai. Believe you me, I did not even know that India has a 36 caste, social system. And he's being called as an outcast. A truck driver is actually a 37th caste. Now imagine who would marry a 37th caste? Who would want to, as a youth, grow up to become a 37th caste? A truck driver lives months away from home, poor conditions, 40% of their families have HIV, 25% of them don't even get married. He lives 10 years younger compared to an average human being. And there's substance abuse, there's unsafe life. And on top of it, you need 1 million truck drivers every year. That's a huge number. That's 10% of the job agenda this nation has. We are adding about 10 million youth to the job population every year, and 10% of that is truck driver. The government data says we'll have 480 truck drivers to 1,000 trucks if the situation continues. So I felt, something has to be done about this. And honestly, while I was at McKinsey and thinking of an idea, I was thinking of a tech logistics kind of an idea. But I did not realize the idea would become, about solving the life of a truck driver. So I came back from this week-long trip, declared to my family that every truck in the world actually would run in a way that the driver life would be made human. And so every truck should be run through a global first idea called as a driver relay, by which a driver would just not come back home every day. Trucks would be passed on as batons, and just like in the way Indian Railways run, and thereby reducing the transit time and increasing the safety of the entire operations. The way it works is, Delhi to Bombay, we set up pit stops, started running trucks. The changeovers would happen at pit stops along the way. The trucks would keep running, whereas the drivers would keep hopping to another truck coming back in the opposite direction. So each truck on the pit stop would come back home the same day, thereby connecting him back to his family, the social ecosystem, the environment. He would bring his home dabba, food from home. He would save more money. He would start coming back home every day. He would sleep at his own bed every day. It would be much safer because he's traveling the same route. And the transit time would actually come down significantly. So I thought, if the transit time is coming down significantly, and the driver is having a much better life, and the economic asset is getting much more utilized, I think we'll definitely make money at the center of it. And I was always inspired of businesses solving real social problems, not solving through CSR budgets or through NGOs. And so I thought I found my calling, but my father was not happy with it. He did not speak to me for 3 months. He said, "You're a McKinsey guy, we'll deal with truck drivers and solve that problem." I said, "No, this will work out." And 3.5 years later, we run a fleet of 5,000 trucks. We've changed lives of 10,000 drivers. 30,000 truckers are actually on a aggregator platform. Our aspiration is that every truck in the next 7-8 years will run on relay. Million driver lives will actually make their life human through relay ecosystem. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a global problem. And I would love to believe that this is an India idea to a global problem. And this is a $3 trillion market. Like Sir said, there is a hope that we could build a Microsoft or a Google out from here. Like Sir said, we've started well, but we'd also love to finish off well. So we need your blessings so that we can be the finishers here.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we turn our attention to our global game-changer innovations. This year, we award 2 such path-breaking initiatives that have dared to dream, dared to ignite, dared to incite, and dared to be different. The first winner of the Global Game Changer Innovation goes to Reliance Jio, a brand, a movement that doesn't need much of an introduction. It conquered and impacted the telecom industry and the nation to an unprecedented level in 2017. We've got a short audio visual put together for you that captures the disruptive impact of Reliance Jio.
On the 28th of December 2015, Jio launched with the largest ever employee trial in the world.
It is my proud privilege to invite all our Reliance families to be the first to experience Jio's services starting tomorrow and in the coming weeks.
Jio was conceived to empower every Indian with a digital life. And on 5th of September 2016, Jio launched to India.
That starting coming Monday, the 5th of September 2016, Jio's data, voice, video, and the full bouquet of Jio's application and content will be available for everyone, absolutely free.
With multiple innovations such as 5-minute activations and the world's largest trial offer, Jio clocked the fastest 100 million in just 170 days.
Just 170 days later, Jio has crossed the 100 million customer mark. For 170 days, Jio has added, on average, nearly 7 customers on its network every single second of every single day.
Jio took the data usage of India from 20 crore GB of data per month to 120 crore GB of data per month. This is twice the amount of data consumed by all of China put together and more than all of US put together. India moved from being 155th in terms of data usage globally to number 1 in less than a year of Jio's launch. India is rising. The best quality services are now available at the lowest price anywhere in the world. Jio passed on the benefit of 4G VoLTE technology to the users and made voice calling completely free in a market dominated by voice. But there was still one large problem to solve.
There are more than 50 crore feature phone users who have been left out of the digital revolution. They cannot avail any benefits of a smartphone, much less the benefits of a 4G LTE smartphone. This digital disempowerment and unfairness must end. Jio is committing to end it today. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce India ka intelligent smartphone presenting the Jio phone. Made in India by young Indians for all Indians.
Jio also made the Jio phone effectively free so that every single person using a feature phone could upgrade to a smartphone and enjoy the benefits that their fellow Jio smartphone users were enjoying. Education, farming and rural sectors became key focus for Jio, and we feel this is just the beginning. India is well on its way to global digital leadership. With Jio, life is digital and life is beautiful.
Ladies and gentlemen, our global game changer. Can I request Mr. Kiran Thomas, President, Reliance Industries Limited, to come up on stage?
Good evening. Respected directors of the MIF Foundation, esteemed members of the MIF Governing Council, eminent members of the MIF Awards jury, captains of Indian government, industry, and the social sector, ladies and gentlemen. I stand here in front of you on behalf of the entire Jio family. And in this family, we count more than 100,000 employees, more than 10 lakh distribution partners, hundreds of technology partners from all over the world, and of course, more than 150 million loyal customers. On behalf of this large family, let me express my deepest gratitude and our heartfelt thanks for bestowing on us this tremendous honor. Dear friends, as I stand here in front of you, there are two thoughts that I want to discuss as it crosses my mind. The first thought is that at Jio, we are taught to move fast, move forward. But maybe today, I can take the liberty of pausing for a moment and to look back with some satisfaction on our accomplishments thus far. And the AV narrated some of those accomplishments. But I want to take this opportunity to recount just half a dozen of these key milestones that Jio has achieved in the last 180 days. Post-launch and obviously the last 18 months since that auspicious day in September. So number one, we have created the largest greenfield only 4G LTE network anywhere in the world. And in just 18 months, what this has meant is that India today has 4G coverage, which is in excess of 2G coverage. Number two, in just 170 days, we acquired more than 100 million customers. And today, we have more than 150 million customers, and this base is growing. Number three, against all popular wisdom, we were able to successfully launch the world's largest and only voice over LTE service, which meant that we could offer voice free forever on the Jio network in India. And finally, we had the unique privilege of taking India from 150th in the world to number one when it came to mobile broadband consumption. I think the video left off where we introduced a free offer. But what is left unsaid is that just 6 months later, we undertook a massive migration from free to paid services. And as you know, it is quite difficult once people get used to free services to convert them into paying customers. But in just over a month's time, we were able to convert nearly 80 million customers from being free subscribers to paid subscribers, and the others followed soon thereafter. And finally, the phone for the masses. There are 500 million Indians today who are used to using feature phones, which means they cannot participate in the digital revolution. And for them, we introduced the Jio phone, which is the world's most affordable and the most innovative smartphone for the common masses. And we offered it for a unique offer of effectively being free. That means every person in India could aspire to now have a smartphone. But Jio is not just a network company. Right from day one, we have also invested in creating more than a dozen powerful mobile applications. And this we did right from the first day. And it spanned the areas of media. So we effectively have TV, cinema, music, newspaper, magazines. It spans cloud. It spans social. It spans security. And this is just the start. So Jio really aspires to be a digital service provider who enhances the digital life of every Indian. But what we are most proud of, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that with Jio, an Indian farmer, even in the remotest corner of this country, can now have access to the same digital capability, whether it be digital entertainment, whether it is e-education, e-health, e-government, and obviously real-time information, as would any other customer in the largest cities of this country. My second thought, as I stand here, is that on award occasions such as these, it's a great opportunity to really draw inspiration from the recognition of your peers and to recommit oneself with renewed vigor to your founding purpose. And I want to talk to you a little bit about Jio's founding purpose. At Jio, we start with recognizing that the world is at the cusp of the fourth industrial revolution, as one of the earlier awardees mentioned. And the foundation of this revolution, as you also mentioned quite correctly, is connectivity, data, and intelligence. And when you combine the power of connectivity, of computing, of software, of information and intelligence, the price performance of everything changes dramatically. The early participants in this fourth industrial revolution will have a unique opportunity of leapfrogging, but I want to correct that word, of pole vaulting the competition and to create unprecedented societal value. Those who do not do so will be outcompeted and they will become irrelevant. It is our conviction that through our efforts, India can not only participate in the fourth industrial revolution, but we can actually become a leader. We have everything going for us. We have a young and energetic workforce, and we have the talent, as you all saw on stage, quite amply. 63% of our population is below 35 years of age. To put it another way, in the prime of their life. We have absolutely no legacy technology that can hold us back. And most of all, we have the political vision, the leadership, and the determination to make this happen. Our Prime Minister's Digital India vision and the IndiaStack project, whom I'm glad to notice is also an awardee today, are shining examples of this. At Reliance, we want to be a proud participant in India's rise. It's our privilege to serve this new and emerging India. While Jio is off to a flying start today, it is our endeavor that we should be even more capable and even better tomorrow in the service of this great nation of ours. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, our deepest thank you on behalf of the entire Jio family. May God bless us as we enter this exciting and truly transformative phase in the history of our great nation. Thank you.
And now moving on, ladies and gentlemen, our second Global Game Changer Award goes to IndiaStack Initiative. What if I told you that your loan could now be processed with the money in the bank in under 10 minutes without you having to be physically present at the bank? That, my friends, is the impact and the potential and the vision of IndiaStack in the coming years. To tell you more, join me in welcoming Mr. Sanjay Jain, the Chief Innovation Officer of the Center for Innovation, Incubation and Entrepreneurship. Mr. Sanjay Jain.
Good evening, everybody. I have the pleasure of trying to explain to you how technology is coming into our lives on an everyday basis and how the digital economy is going to affect us. And I want to thank Dr. Mashelkar for starting the conversation about building for India and in India, because this really is a very much an India story. So India is going digital, clearly. I'm going to talk in three parts of this thing. We are going to talk about how platforms are at the heart of this change. And finally, what kind of innovation ecosystem can we start to see emerge out of this? Basically, India is going digital, and as it is going digital, we are going away from paper, we are going away from cash. Now, this entire story is based on a platform which we have referred to as JAM. The J stands for the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, that has resulted in the opening of about 300 million bank accounts, and there are basically about 300 million families in the country. The idea was to make sure we had one bank account per family. And so this is really about a universalization of banking. The second is on A, which is Aadhaar. That's digital identity for all. And today we have 1.2 billion people who have an Aadhaar. And the third leg is around mobile connections, and we have around 1.2 billion mobile connections. Now, this is really about a universalization of these platforms. And on top of this, more people going online. We have around 500 million people who are on the internet. We have slightly less than that on social media. And in addition to that, we are seeing transactions go up at a very tremendous rate. We have done about 500 million payment transactions on UPI. And why is that important? Is because that's really the way we expect people to transact in the future. Now, this change is happening on the basis of many platforms. And these platforms are really made in India, by India, for India. There are 8 platforms I'm going to talk about. The first is Aadhaar, which has an authentication layer which allows you to prove that you are indeed who you say you are. There's, again on Aadhaar, there's an eKYC, which allows you to exchange an identity document. The third is a digital signature product, which allows you to sign without using paper. The fourth is UPI Bheem, which is really a new payments platform which we have launched recently. Then there is the digital locker, which allows you to share credentials and documents. There is the Bharat bill payment system, which is coming up. There is ID for cars, which is used as part of FASTag. They're called the electronic toll collection. And then there's a new tax system. There's the goods and services tax. And each of these layers is really a whole bunch of platforms built in India with APIs, so you can innovate on top of it. Now, there's about 12 systems globally that have reached a billion users digitally. 11 of them are in the US. 11 of them are in the private sector. The 12th is the only one which is in India built by the public sector. And that's Aadhaar. And interestingly, it's also the one that reached a billion users in the fastest possible time. It took 5.5 years for us to get there. WhatsApp took 6.5, and then the next one after that was around 9 years. Last year, as a country, we did 10 billion authentication transactions. A lot of these came from the government sector, from the food and civil supplies, people drawing rations, bank accounts, telecom. And that's really been the biggest set of users of this platform today. The other thing that happened was we did about 3 billion eKYC transactions last year. And the bulk of these were, again, from the telecom and the banking sector. We did 150 million UPI transactions in December last year, and about 500 million in the entire year. And this is interesting because this is now starting to do more transactions than Visa does at the point of sale. We've already crossed that number. Within this month or in the next few months, we'll cross all credit and debit card transactions at the point of sale. And by next year, this is a comparison which will be meaningless because we'll leave it far behind. The goods and services tax has resulted, before the tax came out, the estimate was around 6 million businesses will file for it. 10 million have already enrolled, which means you've gone 1.5 times the number of businesses that we thought we had in the country. $50 billion in taxes have been collected on this system. And this, again, the value of this tax is that beyond the tax element, this is actually a platform, it's an API, it allows it to be integrated into your business workflow. You can have your Tally or any other accounting system that you use connect to the tax system. So you do business the way you do business and the taxes will take care of themselves. And the benefit of this for the small business is that so far they led a life which was very much undocumented. This now starts to have them leave digital footprints. They can actually now, Mohan is our prototype user here, and he, because of his taxes, now actually has a digital trail of all the invoices, his purchases, and his sales, digitally signed by him, submitted to the government, digitally signed as accepted by the government and the other party coming back to him. This trail is so valuable because for him, it is the first time his life is documented, which allows a bank to give him credit. He has never had access to credit before. And credit, as you know in business, is one of the things that actually allows you to grow. So we believe that this is actually the start of a really credit to the small business revolution, which is going to power our country in just so many different ways. And this, gentlemen, is what we call the IndiaStack. It's this entire set of these systems which will integrate into your daily life, which will allow you to prove that you are who you are without being at a particular location, for instance, a bank. It will allow you to do transactions without exchanging pieces of paper or credentials. You'll do it digitally. There's a payments layer which will allow you to pay cashless. And then there's an automated tax layer. And then finally, there is a consent layer. And this is because we are going digital at this massive pace that we are going to be leaving a lot of digital trails. So using those will require user consent. And this system is designed to be inclusive. I'm taking an example of the payment system here. And while we know that UPI is meant for people with smartphones, there is also one on USSD, which is for feature phones, and you can use Aadhaar Pay if you don't have a phone at all. And as a result, we do expect to see everybody coming in. They're coming in at different rates, but they will certainly all be included. And this is the basis for further innovation. We're already starting to see a lot of companies come up. The government itself has been leveraging this for DBT. Over 300 schemes have used Aadhaar for direct benefit transfer. About 416 million beneficiaries have received money in their bank accounts. Over 2 trillion rupees have been transferred over this system. The government's own estimate is they've said around 57,000 crores. And that's about a fairly large number. And then we are using it for pensions, for people. Today, if you had to prove you were alive, you walked into a bank branch and so you got your pension. But now with this, somebody can come home, do a biometric authentication, and you can continue to draw pension at home. Businesses are going to use it for credit. Finally, there are about 80 plus new companies that were created in the last year, which are only lending on the basis of data. This is a completely new type of company that hadn't existed before in India. We have about $83 billion which have flown into mutual funds through accounts opened only in a digital manner. We have had 100 million SIM cards. I mean, we just heard the Jio story. It's a really fantastic story. And our data usage has grown a factor of 9 in the last year. A factor of 9. We're not really talking percentages anymore. And that really starts to bring us to this impact. McKinsey did a study with a bank. They reimagined how they do account opening. They took time down from 6 days to 1 hour. They eliminated a complete back office on doing this. They reduced the number of errors because the customer is right in front of you. And then the branch capacity frees up because now you have less things to deal with. The same happened with a large asset manager. So you're starting to see many large businesses adopt this and reimagine how they deal with customers. And this is really leading to massive improvements. You already know with Jio, the concept of walkout working, wow, which is really you walk in, you get a SIM, and by the time you're out, the SIM is working. It saved ₹15 for every SIM they issued. They saved sheets of paper, about 4 sheets of paper for every SIM that was issued. In the first 2 months alone, they saved 15,000 trees. And the story just goes on and on. We are really going to become a data-rich country very soon. And our whole belief is that by becoming data-rich, we can use it to become economically rich. Data is really going to help us grow as a country. When you saw all these companies that talked today, a lot of them were talking about data. Because data is really the foundation on which the next set of wealth is going to be built. And we want to make sure that this benefit goes to the user. And the way that will happen is through consented data sharing. The idea is that as a user, you have to be in control of your own data. When there is a benefit to you, you share it with somebody. This is true for when you take credit, you actually share data about yourself with the bank. But the same is also true for health. The same is true for education. The same is going to be true in every sector that touches our lives on a daily basis. And that really is the value of the stack. In our lifetime, we have seen nonlinear change in terms of the rate at which telephone has grown. We went from 2G, 3G, 4G, and now we're seeing that. The same thing we have seen in the form of all of the curves that I showed you are all true exponential curves. So we're going through nonlinear change in at least 3 or 4 different aspects of our life, which really means that the world of tomorrow is going to be so different than anything that we have today. That it's really the start of. It's a new dawn. I mean, it's going to be really a very completely different world today. It's going to be really a very completely different world today. It is being made in India, by India, and for India. In India, and that's really by India and for India. And that's really what I want to do. Thank you.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, to give you a taste of the kind of technology that will shape the future of both businesses and individuals, I'd like to invite on stage our keynote speaker, Mr. Rajan Anandan, Vice President, Google, India and Southeast Asia. Please put your hands together for Mr. Rajan Anandan.
Good evening, everyone. First and foremost, I want to thank the Marico Innovation Foundation for inviting me to join all of you this evening. Being from Google and having been deeply involved in the technology ecosystem for a long time now, I spend just about every day, just about every minute that I'm awake, thinking about innovation, meeting companies that are working on innovation. But I must say, it's been a very long time since I've been so inspired in a period of 2 hours. So I think we should give Harsh, Dr. Mashelkar, and the entire team a big round of applause. What I thought I'd talk about today is really how Indian companies, Indian technology startups, as well as the Indian ecosystem, should think about building from where we are. In many ways, we've come a long way in the last 5 years, if you think about the internet economy in India, but really over the last 30 years, if you think about the broader technology ecosystem. But as I'm sure all of you would agree, in many ways, we're still at ground zero when it comes to technology, what technology can do for consumers, and what technology can do for businesses, what technology can do for governments. And I genuinely do believe that Indian companies, Indian technology companies, Indian entrepreneurs can and will build very, very large global businesses from India over the next 5 and 10 years. And what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about the trends that are shaping the technology industry. For many of you in this room, none of that will be new news. I'll try to give you a little more color. I'll also talk about how the single most important technology trend in our view, what it is, and how that's impacting businesses that are small, medium-sized, and large, and the innovation opportunities that arise from it. And lastly, I'll talk a little bit about the internet ecosystem in India today and where we see the next major set of opportunities that will arise. Through the course of it, I am going to talk about a few Google examples. I thought I'd just speak about them, not to talk about Google, but just to bring some of these technologies to life and how they may be applied, both for your existing products, but also in adjacent industries. So let's start with where we are with the internet in the world. As we speak, there are 7.6 billion people in the world. 3.5 billion of them are connected to the internet. And about 2.5 billion of them access the internet every single day. And on average, they spend about 3 hours a day. When I graduated from college in the early 1990s from Cambridge, if I had to imagine building a global business, I'd have to pretty much open offices in every single country around the world. If I thought about launching a technology company, in fact, many of my friends did. Almost every single one of my classmates from MIT launched a tech startup right out of MIT. And it cost them between $2 and $10 million just to get off the grounds. Today, that's completely changed. You can launch an internet product, an internet service from any one country, and your addressable market is 3.5 billion consumers, right? And this, as I'm sure you'll imagine, changes everything about addressable markets, how quickly you can expand, the kinds of consumers you can address. And this is in many ways the first big and important thing that we need to keep in mind as we build technology companies from India. But really, the 3.5 billion consumers is only the first part of this story. The pace of change that has been quite incredible over the last 5 years, over the last 10 years, over the past 15 years is accelerating. And it's accelerating across many dimensions. The first thing, and the first way it's accelerating, is around the fact that not just everyone, but everything is being connected. You heard from several of our speakers about the Internet of Things. There are 3.5 billion human beings connected to the Internet, but at the end of 2017, there were 20 billion devices connected to the Internet. On average, every single one of the billions of consumers connected to the Internet is connected to the Internet 3 hours a day. Every single one of the 20 billion devices is connected to the Internet 24 hours a day. Now, when you think about this 20 billion devices and the amount of data and insights it's generating and what that can mean for businesses, in fact, I was so excited to see SmartSense, because SmartSense is already a very, very interesting company, but the addressable market for SmartSense is 20 billion devices, very rapidly growing to 50 billion devices over the next 3 years. So everything and everyone is connected. The second major trend, and the one that I'll spend most of my talk talking about, is the fact that machines are slowly but surely getting smarter than humans. You'll hear about machine learning and artificial intelligence. I'll talk a little bit more about that. And this is very, very important. I think a lot of people worry about, will machines take away jobs from humans? Well, some of that will happen. There will be certain kind of roles which will get automated. And that's bound to happen, and that will happen. But actually, what's a lot more interesting is what humans can do when machines can help in very, very significant ways. And I'll share one or two examples of what that could mean. And finally, especially for entrepreneurs, for innovators, what's very, very exciting is the fact that when you look at this massive number of global consumers, billions of consumers globally, billions of devices connected always on every single day, and the fact that machines now are getting much, much smarter in many ways than humans, you can create entirely new business models, right? Companies like Ola, companies like Oyo, several of the companies that you saw today that are really enabled by the fact that you have this incredibly connected world which is getting smarter by the day. What I'd like to do now is talk a little bit about what new business models could emerge and what could all this technology and this incredible transformation enable. Well, the reality is it's going to impact every single industry in a very fundamental way. The internet so far has really only impacted at scale a few industries. It impacted e-commerce globally, retail with e-commerce. It impacted the media industry. You know, there was a time when all of us bought CDs and then we had music streaming and so on and so forth. The media industry is completely changed. You're seeing online video now beginning to go the same way. But over the next 10 or 15 years, every single industry will get impacted in very profound ways. We just heard Jio speak. Let's take the telecommunications industry. The reality is the current set of existing technologies, whether it's 4G or 5G, will only get us from about 3.5 billion connected consumers to about 4.5 billion, possibly 5 billion. That will still leave 2.5 billion consumers who are unconnected, simply because they're in very, very rural areas or hard to access areas that simply cannot be connected. The unit economics simply do not work. So we will see an entirely new set of technologies. And you see one picture there of the balloon. That's the Google Loon project, right? Where we put a balloon 19 kilometers up in the sky, and we're able to provide connectivity to very rural places at very affordable rates. And this is one of many next generation technologies that will very fundamentally transform the telecommunications industry globally. Healthcare. I was so excited to see several of our startups that are doing very, very innovative, disruptive things in healthcare. The reality is, by 2020, you, every single one of you, will know when you're before you get a heart attack. Isn't that going to be awesome? Because you'll actually have a pair of contact lenses that you'll wear. Well, I hope that none of you actually do get one. But for those of you that might, you'll actually know long before you get one. Because you'll have a pair of contact lenses that you'll wear that will basically measure every single parameter that matters for that specific disease. By the way, it doesn't have to be heart attacks. It could be diabetes. You know, you pick your favorite disease that you want. Every single, no, not in a sort of that you want, but what you might worry about. But the reality is, imagine that 3 years from now, regardless of what you're worried about, you'll be able to do early diagnostics, which would then actually lead to prevention, and imagine what that could mean for human lives. The third example you see here is really about drones doing deliveries. Right? I'm sure all of you are reading about this. By 2020, in at least 25 cities around the world, last mile delivery will be done by drones. The technology works today. You actually saw some great examples of autonomous applications in the defense industry. Across many, many different industries, you're going to see autonomous technologies have very, very profound impacts. And finally, driverless cars. I was delighted to see a company that actually was built on making autonomous vehicles much safer. By 2019, in some of your favorite cities in the world, if you would like to, you will be able to take an autonomous vehicle. I say that because a lot of people tell me they don't want to go in one. That's cool too, because the regular ones will also exist. But I want you to imagine these are very, very different industries. Telecommunications, life sciences including pharmaceuticals, transportation, and even an industry like logistics, all being fundamentally disrupted by innovations that are not futuristic, but innovations that are here and now. I want to now shift gears and talk about the single biggest technology in our view, when I say ours, I mean Google's views, that's going to shape the next 10 to 15 years. And it's going to impact every industry that we know of. And that's machine learning, and some of you may call it artificial intelligence. I want to start off with one example, which is the game of Go. How many of you actually have played Go or are familiar with Go? The game is called Go, G-O. Okay, a few. I see 2 or 3 names. 2 or 3 hands go up. It's a very, very complex game. It's several orders of magnitude more complex than chess. And in many ways, playing the game of Go requires you to utilize your skills that are incredibly human, like creativity, right? It's mathematical, but it's actually much more creative. AlphaGo is Google's computer. It's a machine that plays Go. And in the field of artificial intelligence, we've long believed that a major milestone in artificial intelligence will be when a machine could beat the world champion in the game of Go. So in March 2016, for the very first time in the history of the world, Google's AlphaGo, that's the machine, the computer, actually beat Lee Sedol 4:1. That was a huge milestone because it showed that computers could learn very, very quickly and actually become better than humans in one aspect that actually requires very complex set of thinking. Now here's the really interesting thing. So that was March 2016. Exactly a year later, in May 2017 in China, we had the next big competition against KG, who at the time was the #1 Go player in the world. AlphaGo 3, KG 0. So machine learning is happening, right? It's still very, very early days, but I wanted to give you this example because it brings to life what it means when computers actually get to be quite smart. At Google, we've applied machine learning in all our core products. When Sundar, who's our CEO, became CEO about 2.5 years ago, he said, we are going to now move from being a mobile-first company to an AI-first company. And every single one of our core products now, at the core of it, everything that we're trying to do is to bring machine learning to improve the user experience that we can give. I don't know how many of you are on Gmail now, but you'd be delighted to know that a large percentage of the replies that you're probably getting today, whether you know it or not, is called auto-reply. The machine is suggesting what you should say as a reply. You know, all those emails that you say, you want to say fantastic, great, no, maybe a different day. Google Photos. I don't know how many of you use Google Photos, but the machines can now pretty much recognize my 11-year-old daughter Maya in every picture. Or the times that I went to Sri Lanka, or the times that I went to New York, all I have to say is New York, Maya. Boom. All the pictures, the hundreds that I have with my daughter in New York show up. Google Translate. There was actually a period of 30 days, about 18 months ago, where we saw the accuracy of Translate improve dramatically. And it was enabled by bringing the best of machine learning into our Google Translate application. Right? So one of the things I would like you to think about is, regardless of the kind of company that you're running or the kind of startup that you're building, how can machine learning and AI really improve the core experience to consumers or businesses that you're developing? And now let's actually move to sharing with you a few examples from real companies in traditional industries that are using machine learning. And I thought I'd share these both to give you a sense of how you might be able to apply this in your business, but more importantly, if you're an entrepreneur, an innovator, to give you a sense of the kinds of things you can build that are not just India specific, but they're global in every sense. How many of you are familiar with Policy Bazaar? It's an Indian startup. Anybody familiar with Policy Bazaar? Oh, there's 3 or 4 of you. By the way, next time you buy an insurance policy, you should go to Policy Bazaar. They're an insurance aggregator. 100% guaranteed that be India's first tech unicorn that'll be profitable when they become a unicorn. In fact, they'll be insanely profitable. What they do is they basically provide you a platform for comparing insurance policies, right? And then you can compare and then you can actually select the best one. So they deployed machine learning in the form of a sales bot that they call PB. P for Policy Bazaar, B-E-E. So what this bot does is when you actually go to your site, it becomes your virtual assistant to help you through the sales process. It took them all of 60 days to build this. Today they convert 13,000 sales every single month, 100% attributable to this bot, and that drives $2 million of incremental premium sales every single month. Very simple application, applying machine learning to the function of sales. Within 60 days, you've got significant impact. And what's happening with PB, by the way, is PB is the bot. It gets smarter every single minute. So the customer who comes tomorrow knows the questions that were asked today by customers, and therefore is able to, and what works, what doesn't work, and the bot just keeps getting smarter. This is actually an example of a logistics company in Japan, where they actually used machine learning in the customer service function, right? Those of you that run businesses that have large customer service teams know. Some of you probably have thousands of people in call centers. A lot of people now send emails, and you actually have humans sitting on the other side responding to these emails, right? So they actually used, again, they leveraged machine learning to build an application that automatically responds to customer queries. They get 4x faster response times, and their ROI was 10,000% on the investment that they made, because they only pay $100 a month for this application. That pretty much takes out the need for any human intervention in email-driven customer service, right? Another very simple, very straightforward application in a real-life business problem. The third example is actually a Google example. So as you can imagine, we have massive number of global data centers that consume enormous amounts of energy. The single biggest cost driver after the hardware in a data center is the cost of energy. And of course, given the scale that we're at, we've spent an enormous amount of time optimizing the energy costs in our data centers, because it's a very large part of our costs. So about 7 or 8 months ago, we said, why don't we take DeepMind, which is our AI capability, and let's apply to this problem of saving energy costs in our data centers, energy specifically tied to cooling. Within a period of 30 days, we reduced the cost of cooling in global's data center infrastructure network by 40% by leveraging machine learning, right? So those then give you a few examples of the kinds of things that you can do. They're very basic, but the reason I wanted to share them with you is, regardless of the kind of business that you're in, the application of machine learning in your business, in almost every function of your business, is actually here and now. And if you're an entrepreneur, it creates enormous amounts of opportunities. I actually think India will have hundreds of thousands of startups that are going to leverage AI and machine learning to build for the world, much like we saw in the first wave of Indian IT services companies. Now let's move to India. What's incredible about what's happened in India is over the last, I'd say probably 3 or 4 years, every single barrier that we've had to getting Indians online has been addressed. In fact, about 2 years ago, we said, as Google in India, our mission is internet for every Indian. Clearly, the single biggest barrier that we had was access. And thanks to, I think, the incredible revolution that was launched by Jio, access has become widely affordable. It used to cost 250 rupees a gigabyte 18 months ago. Today, 10 to 15 rupees a gigabyte. You look at Wi-Fi, there really wasn't a whole heck of a lot of Wi-Fi in India today. Today you have a rapidly growing network of free Wi-Fi capability all across the nation, including Google's partnership with Railtel around that. If you look at the cost of devices, India went from 10 million to 100 million smartphones when the cost of a smartphone dropped below 10,000 rupees. I remember 7 years ago I joined Google, a smartphone cost over 10,000 rupees. We said, let's get it below 10,000 rupees. Boom, it went from 10 million to 100 million. Then we went from 100 million smartphone users to 300 million smartphone users when the cost of a smartphone dropped below 6,000 rupees. The next big step change in smartphone penetration is 45 days from now. And the magic price point is 2,500 rupees. 2,500 rupees, and we'll go from 300 million smartphone users to 500 million smartphone users. And the remaining 500 million, you've already seen what's going to happen to that. You'll have connected feature phones, and boom, there you go. You've got 1 billion connected Indians. Local languages have been a huge issue, right? But in many Indian languages now, the problems around access, around voice recognition, keyboards, etc., have been solved. And what that's really led to over the last several years is actually a pretty significant and scaled out ecosystem in India. 430 million internet users, over 300 million of them access the internet on their smartphones, and over 4 gigabytes per user per month across all telecom networks. Of course, if you look at Jio, the number is much higher than that. And all of these numbers are numbers as of the end of 2017. In January, which is last month, India added 10 million new connected smartphone users in the month of January. In the month of December, we added 10 million new connected smartphone users. The month of November, India added 10 million new connected smartphone users. I think you get the idea. So by November, India will have over 400 million connected smartphone users, and that is before the pricing of smartphones has dropped. And that's going to just accelerate everything. So by 2020, at this point, it is almost a foregone conclusion that we will have over 650 million connected users in India. And the other thing that's really changed over the last, I'd say probably 12 to 18 months, is we've gone from really being all about an internet that was about India one, males, metros, and millennials, to really about India two. And that's really led to explosive growth in vernacular. Today, 230 million internet users in India only access the internet in their local languages, i.e. not in English. Every single local language Indian site and app in Hindi, in Tamil, in Kannada is like this. Search queries that are non-English in India are growing 10 times faster than search queries in English. It's become all about video, and that really has been enabled by this incredible abundance of affordable broadband. 4 years ago, there were less than 50 million users who consumed online video. Today, just YouTube, which is one of the online video platforms, has 225 million Indians consuming YouTube. And even at that scale, watch time, which is the amount of time that Indians are watching YouTube, is growing at over 100% year on year. And you can imagine what's going to happen over the next 2 or 3 years. And finally, voice. India is going to be the world's first voice-driven internet. And we are already seeing signs of this happening. 28% of the search queries on the Google search app in India today are voice. Not surprising. We like to talk. And talking is certainly much easier than typing. And then when you look at getting 1 billion Indians online or 1.3 billion Indians online, voice becomes the only real way because of challenges of literacy. So we're now about 12 months into what we call India 2 and India 3, and we're seeing explosive growth in vernacular, video, and voice. This then brings me to the last point, which really is probably the most important point. We believe that the time has come for us to leverage this incredible user base, this incredible set of new technologies to solve for India. The biggest businesses get solved when you solve the biggest problems. And as a nation, we are not short of these massive scale problems. But so far, there's been very little focus on leveraging technology to solve these problems at scale. And I was delighted to see several of the startups, the winners of awards today, are actually focusing on areas like healthcare. So whether it's agriculture, where we have 50 million households that are all smallholder households that cannot afford state-of-the-art equipment. Imagine what you could do if you had all the data that a farmer in India could leverage. Imagine if you could reimagine the equipment that they use and what that could do to farmer productivity. Financial inclusion, I think this is probably the one space where we've actually seen innovation that goes beyond the first 100 or 200 million, thanks to companies like Paytm. Public transport. The first $100 billion digital-first transportation company is not going to be built on taxis. You know why? Because Indians cannot afford to pay 15 rupees per ride. Indians can afford to pay 5 rupees per ride. So the first $100 billion transport company is actually going to be built on buses. And I want you to imagine a network of 1 million buses. They run on solar. Over time, they become all autonomous. And they give you an incredibly high-quality public transport experience for 5 rupees. That is the geoification or the airtelification in the early days of the public transport industry. Because it meets the core requirements of the Indian consumer who, whether we like it or not, can only afford 5 rupees. And then a space like education. The reality is, we will never be able to have the schools or the teachers to provide high-quality education for the 200 million plus Indian children who are in schools today. Technology is not the only answer, but technology can be a huge enabler. And I'll give you my simple story. Maya is 11. 2 years ago, she came to me and said, I don't want to go to this math teacher. I'm like, why? Because I don't learn anything. So what are you going to do? He says, what's important to you? I said, well, you get grades. Those might be important. So we have a simple agreement with my 11-year-old. You can do whatever you want as long as your grades go north. So she actually spends 2 hours a day. Guess what? Online. And her grades have never been better. And now this is a child who actually has access to pretty high quality education. Now I want all of us to imagine what we could do if we could have the world's best education delivered to every single one of the 200 million plus children in India. We can solve the single biggest challenge we have in the country. And finally, healthcare. I was delighted to see several of the startups today that are truly building innovative solutions for India. But the reality is, in a country of 1.3 billion people, we should really have about 1 million tech startups, health tech startups, right? Everything from life sciences to low-cost devices to information-driven healthcare companies. And that creates massive opportunities. And as you've seen from several of the companies, the awardees today, as we solve each of these mega problems, we will not just solve for India, we will solve for the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajan, for joining us here this evening and being our keynote speaker. I'd like to request Mr. Mariwala to kindly say a few words.
Thank you and good evening to all of you. First of all, let me thank Rajan. He readily agreed to come here and speak to all of us. And I asked him to give a flavor of what is going to be our lives in future and what's going to happen in India, what is going to be the technology impact of what is happening in this world, and how will our lives change. And thank you very much for being with us. I want to thank all the award winners. I think you did a fabulous job in speaking, and your stories are amazing. Thank you to all the kids. I think I feel very, very proud of what you've done at your age. So thank you for all the speakers, the kids, Rajan, and the award winners. And of course, Dr. Mashelkar, who started off the evening. At Marico Innovation Foundation, we do much more than just having awards. Awards is one thing, which we do it once in 2 years. But in addition to that, we do a lot of other things. In 2014, we had launched a book called Making Breakthrough Innovations Happen, featuring breakthrough stories of 11 organizations. The book has been a bestseller. We sold something like 75,000 copies in India. And now we are putting together a new book on innovation, which revolves around the scale-up journey of 10 of our past Innovation Award winners. We expect to launch the book in early 2019. The foundation's core program is actually MIF Scale-Up program, where we help innovative organizations in their growth journey. I would like to show you a small video on that.
I had realized in my own journey that innovation will play a very crucial role in helping organizations succeed. I have seen that many organizations have innovative ideas, but they do not know how to scale up.
We are registered as an NGO, but at certain scale, your issues and the management challenges you deal with are very similar to what a large business would.
See, as an engineer, I know more about the product and the market fit, but we don't have enough expertise in terms of online sales or offline sales.
We have already developed a good product, but the business around it, the commercial angle of it is something that we have been facing challenges with.
So the scale-up program actually works with the innovative organizations, may it be social, may it be business, and it helps them scale up in terms of what are the key challenges they are facing. We hold their hands, we make them experiment, and then based on the need or the gaps they have, we can either have a mentor attached to that organization, or we can have some of our Marico team members working in those organizations, or we can have management students doing some sort of a summer project.
The intent is to actually take these organizations, work with them for about 6 to 8 months and help solve some of the business challenges that they're facing.
I've been working in FMCG supply chain for almost 12 years now. So I feel this expertise that I've gathered will be a huge help to these organizations, these innovators. If you ask me what is the most exciting part, is that what I feel is a very small problem is for them a breakthrough solution.
I have a very strong ability along with the MIF team to understand where a company wants to go and show it the path of how to go there.
One of the challenges that we are facing is which model we should go forward with. Alok has a very good business acumen and he helped us in conceptualizing our pros and cons, our SWOT analysis and the strengths to identify which is the best way out of this dilemma.
Our mentor was Nirlay Sheth, and we went to him saying, we have this whole logistical problem. He came back and he said, you don't actually have that problem. What you have is a procurement problem. With MIF scale-up program's help, we're able to reach 1.5 lakh girls. And it also meant that we were able to scale this particular program that was going into 800 schools at much higher cost to 6,000 schools in 1 year.
So when you hear good things from the innovators that because of our intervention, they've had a huge benefit, it really makes us very, very happy, because it's just not benefits going to them, but we have actively contributed something in their journey.
So in the last 2 years, we have worked with about 40 organizations solving their challenges across different functions, whether it's marketing, supply chain, sales, or quality verticals. And some of them actually the business model changes. And I think they've benefited. We've learned a lot also in working with them. And I would like to thank all those who supported, Mariconians, many of our mentors who are retired CEOs, some of the consultants who work with us. And I think it has been a very fulfilling journey for me personally, involving in helping this organization scale up. I want to thank one person who is no more with us. He has been a member of our Marico Innovation Foundation Council ever since we started. He had accepted to be at this function today, and all of a sudden last month he expired. His name is Ranjan Kapoor, and he has been a great source of inspiration for all of us at the council. And I would like to thank his contribution, and Ranjan will miss you, and I want to thank you for all your inputs, all your help in driving our innovation journey further. Before I end, I just want to say two things. We have a knowledge partner, A.T. Kearney, who've done a lot of work. What you've seen today in terms of awards, a lot of effort goes into that. Our Innovation Foundation team, together with a knowledge partner, we identify organizations which are innovative. We also invite applications on for entries. But a lot of applications are actually out of identification, asking people to apply. And then we ask the knowledge partner to actually go and shortlist those applications. They present those applications to first set of jury. And this is an independent jury. I'm not a participant, or I'm not a jury member. They select and shortlist about 10 to 12 entries out of maybe about 30, 40 entries which are shortlisted by the knowledge partner. And then we ask the knowledge partner to go back again to the organizations which have been shortlisted, verify all the claims which they are making on paper. They visit those organizations and come back to us with a report, what they feel about the kind of work they've done. And we have one more set of jury, which again deliberates based on the inputs by the knowledge partner, and then we decide to award. Once the awardees are given awards, we actually spend a month or two training them. A TED trainer actually gets involved in terms of training, and that's how you saw a certain format in terms of how each award winner spoke. I think that's our way of adding value to all of you in terms of a very crisp talk which talks about the innovation. Finally, I want to thank the MIF Innovation team, which is here. So give them a big hand. They've put in a lot of work. And I want to thank the Governing Council for all the help they've given me. But most thanks to Dr. Mashelkar, who's always been with me. Whenever I have phoned him up, he's there for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Harsh Mariwala, for your closing remarks. And thank you so much for joining us here this evening. Do enjoy the rest of your evening. That's all from me. Bye-bye and good night.